Okay, so Netflix, everyone's go-to option when you want to relax after a long day of school, work, or life in general. Netflix has some great shows on hand, and today we're going to rank the best ones that I've seen. There's two criteria to mention before starting this ranking. One, it must be a show that is still on Netflix and has not been removed yet, and two, I have to have watched the show to completion, pilot to finale. Alright, with the rules in place, let's start ranking these shows. Starting with Superstore, a show based on the everyday mishaps of working in retail, Superstore is pretty funny and definitely relatable if you've worked in the industry. While the characters aren't exactly show-stopping, they feel like people that you can relate to and they feel like your coworkers at times. The show does a great job at being funny for 6 straight seasons and it only gets progressively better each time around. Superstore is must-see TV. Next is Brooklyn Nine-Nine, a fan favorite for almost every Netflix user. Brooklyn Nine-Nine is that go-to show that you throw on when you want some brain-dead comedy to take your mind off things. I personally love the first 3 quarters of the show. Everything up until season 7 and 8 is really good, and then starts a pretty steep decline. However, the main characters are all very interesting, the running gags in the show don't lose their appeal, and overall there are moments when the show pulls on your heartstrings. I feel like it dragged on towards the end, but still a very good show on its own. Brooklyn Nine-Nine is also must-see TV. Next is Community, a show that I binged a few years after its finale. Community really sticks out for me. It's one of those comedies that does something different and isn't afraid to go out of its comfort zone. It does a great job of exploring each character's development, and how unique each individual is makes the show that much more appealing. All 6 seasons are filled with episodes that make you laugh while also trying something different when compared to a regular show. A show that I believe goes under the radar. You have to see this one if you haven't already. Community is one of the best of the best. Next is Money Heist, my favorite show of all time. The Spanish drama series has everything going for it. Money, action, drama, suspense, cliffhangers, character deaths, and so much more. A show that reimagines the bank heist genre in a completely different way. Money Heist is always doing something that you're not expecting. Seeing a supposedly perfect plan go up in flames because of ego, chaos, and destruction keeps you coming back for more. Character development is insane for almost each member, and the use of flashbacks really opens up an already amazing story. The show will leave you wanting more at each turn, and you'll be hooked at every moment within the 5 incredible seasons. Money Heist is easily one of the best of the best. Up next is Peaky Blinders. This British crime drama is everything you want in a great TV show and then some. One of the best casts in terms of characters and actors that I've seen. The show really does a great job in terms of character development, whether it's the main family or the side characters. The way the show is shot is amazing, using scenery and film work to really emphasize early 1900s England. The way the story unfolds is truly mesmerizing, and there's always something to catch you off guard and make you guess what will happen next. Another amazing show, Peaky Blinders, is up there with the best. Next is The Playlist, the story of how music giant Spotify came to be. The Swedish drama is very interesting in the way that the story is told. It's the same story told from 6 different perspectives, giving you an insight into how this company grew into what it is now, from the CEO to the programmers to the legal team and so on. Rarely is a show told from this perspective, and while it is interesting, it isn't executed to perfection. The story seems repetitive as it's the same thing going on, just told from a different side, but the way the writers use a real life story and turn it into a show is rather effective. It was a solid watch, but nothing that really makes you go wow. Altogether, The Playlist is definitely a decent show. Next is the Queens Gambit, one of the most popular shows during the pandemic and possibly the catalyst for the boom in chess interest in the past few years. The Queen's Gambit really took off when it first came out. The story of child prodigy Beth Harmon and her adventures in the world of professional chess were told in a very unique way. The storyline is very impressive, and Beth's struggles both within herself and on the chessboard are told in a very captivating way. The show may not be for everyone, especially if you have no interest in chess, but I personally found it to be appealing in all the right ways. I would definitely watch The Queen's Gambit a second time around. Next is The Last Dance, the docu-series about NBA legend Michael Jordan. This show really told a story that I'd only known at the surface level prior to watching it. So much depth, information, and exclusive footage really tells the story in a different light to what most of us know it as. Even if you're not a huge basketball fan, there's enough drama and action in the show to keep you hooked from the start. The memes that came from the show live on to this day, and it's one of the best sports shows I've ever seen. I definitely watched The Last Dance one more time. Next is Squid Game, the South Korean survival drama that I assume everyone has seen by now, being Netflix's best show to date, was truly something else when it came out in late 2021. Taking the world by storm, it definitely does something most shows can't do, leave you speechless at every turn. The sheer horror that unfolds when trying to play a few innocent children's games is unparalleled, and leaves you feeling uneasy at times. While Squid Game is a lot to digest, the story really is captivating, the actors do a great job playing their roles and telling each character's story, and the cliffhanger ending leaves you with more questions than answers. It goes without saying that Squid Game is must-see TV if you can stomach it. Next is Formula 1 Drive to Survive, the show that got me hooked on F1 along with millions of others. Drive to Survive is really good at being overly dramatic, and if that's something you like, this is the show for you. Whether you're an F1 fan or not, the show really does a good job exploring storylines throughout the course of the season, whether it's the highest of highs or the lowest of lows. While the first few seasons definitely focus on the driving, with the newer seasons focus on the drama, Drive to Survive is something for everyone and surely is must-see TV. Next is Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, a very interesting story of resilience and positivity told from a perspective focused on providing comedic relief. The show does a great job of telling a story that many of us go through all the time, discovering ourselves. Ellie Kemper truly steals the show as the main character, with the side character she meets after moving to New York City providing a nice cushion of support. While the show doesn't reinvent the wheel, it tells a captivating story that most of us can relate to, while providing some laughs along the way. Definitely a show that I would recommend if you haven't seen it yet. Next is Kaleidoscope, Netflix's most recent attempt at an interactive series. Kaleidoscope breaks away from traditional TV linearity by allowing the viewer to watch the show in whatever order they choose. A very interesting spin on the usual vault heist genre. It does a great job at telling bits and pieces of a larger story and leaving you thinking, oh, that makes sense now. With a different order being assigned to each viewer and the liberty to choose how you watch it, Kaleidoscope can be judged in too many different ways, and it's a story that you'll either love or hate depending on which way you watch it. Regardless, the story is pretty solid, the characters are okay, and the twist at the end is definitely worth the wait if you so choose. I'd go back and watch the show again in a different order the second time around. Next is Manifest, a show that I finished recently. Manifest does a great job at keeping you guessing what will happen next without actually giving you the answer you're looking for. A story that is as captivating as it is confusing. Trying to figure out how a plane can time travel 5 years into the future can only keep you scratching your head for so long. The story is definitely the shining light of the show, as I'm not overly attached to any one of the characters, but even then a relatively slow pace and oftentimes confusing narrative makes it really hard to fall for this show. A classic example of not bad but not great, Manifest is decent at best. And lastly, we have The Office. While I may be in the minority when it comes to this opinion, I simply think that this show is overrated. I believe that everyone loves the show for its rewatch factor rather than storyline that it tells. Everyone loves it because you can throw it on and not have to think for 20 to 25 minutes, and it's simply a fan favorite because the characters feel like everyday people. The first few seasons are great, but once the show falls into the loop of recycling jokes and lines and scenes, it starts a steep decline. If you love the show, all the power to you, but I simply think it's one of the most overrated shows out there. And there you have it, my ranking of all the shows that I've seen and finished on Netflix. There's plenty more that I've started that I need to get through, and tons on my list that I'll get around to eventually, so stick around for part 2. Let me know what you think down below, and I'll catch you next time.